All right, welcome, welcome. So we're in week 4 or 5 or 6, depending on how you're counting, of this. And we at UNC, we get some updates from our folks who are UNC Department of Psychiatry, etc. We had an update yesterday where they're saying that in the treatment world, the substance use treatment world, they are seeing people lapsing that had not before, that they are concerned about use, going out for use, those kinds of things. So we want to address all that today to the extent we can. We schedule these for an hour, but we actually, I think on the clock, have about 90 minutes. Is that right, Steve? Not, yeah, okay. So we can go over if there's a demand for it. But I wanted to ask folks, and so again, you hit your space bar like a walkie-talkie, keep that down while you're talkie, and then release it. How are folks going? How are folks doing? You're in week 3, 4, 5. How are the folks that you're serving in terms of co-occurring disorder doing? What's happening?
Trying to keep everyone busy, especially my clients. You know, the idle hands is kind of hard right now when everyone staying in. A lot of my clients enjoy the face-to-face group meetings instead of the online meetings. So I'm struggling to try to get them extra support.
Right. So trying to keep them busy, that kind of idle hands, let's stay too busy to either have use or to get over a craving, that kind of thing, and trying to acclimate to being a Brady Bunch talking head instead of in person. What else?
So, excuse me, I found it really unusual with our folks that we didn't see a lot of reaction immediately, but we've seen a big increase in acuity over the past week and a half. One of the things that we're doing for most of our clients that are really in danger of relapse or practicing really dangerous behaviors, we're almost in daily phone contact with the folks that we can get a hold of. So we're really amping up the phone contact and phone support and stuff.
Right. So that's not unusual, Jeff. We're seeing that, you know, people can handle anything pretty much for a week, you know, or 2 weeks, and then you start to see the horizon keeps on moving further out. And so, you know, you're going to freak out over the lack of half and half toilet paper or weed, you know? So, yeah. So that's what UNC was also saying, is they're starting to see an uptick in admissions and people in crisis and calling their clinic. What else is going on for you guys?
Well, this is Archibald. For me, most of the clients I've been seeing are really concerned about food items. Most of them don't want to leave their homes because of fear of contracting the coronavirus. So that has been a major issue for most of my folks.
Right. And I just have to tell you, I don't hear so well and I don't have them in. Did you say they're concerned about food items or flu items?
No, food. F-O-O-D.
Okay. All right. I know that a lot of ACT teams have started to develop stronger partnerships with food banks and are creating, you know, contactless delivery at your door of some kind of food items. Other teams have worked with payees to have payees buy like Food Lion gift cards and send them either to the clients or to the teams to do some shopping for folks who seem really afraid of getting out there but need food staples. So good.
Yeah, I've been working with our team leader to do all of that. I'm just sharing concerns that clients have right now.
And if the clients, if they have like food stamps, what we have been doing is coordinating with them to order their food online
Mhm.
and picking it up, and we just deliver it at their door, as well as the food banks. But we're out of Raleigh, so I know that could look different depending on where you are, demographic.
Perfect. I love hearing that. And that sort of takes care of the fact that the EBT card can't pay for delivery.
Mhm.
So they order, they pay, and then you guys pick up. Excellent
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
ideas. See, we're getting stronger every damn day. in
Yeah.
doing this.
A lot of I remember in the first couple of weeks, these were all the things that everyone was trying to figure out. And now it seems like everyone's got to figure it out.
Right. Good observation. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. What else is going on with you guys, especially when it comes to the co-occurring kind of stuff?
Definitely noticed an increase of depression and anxiety with clients, and like other people have said, people feeling more isolated without groups. And I'm actually starting up the group today, the IDD group online with Zoom, and then people are going to be calling in. It's going to be mostly, I think maybe one person is going to Zoom, and then the rest of the people will be calling in to do group that way. And then just one like kind of positive thing, the guy that we work with that usually works and spends most of his money on methamphetamines. Now that he doesn't have that extra income, he's doing a little better the past 2 or 3 weeks. So it's been a mix of both things, challenges and some.
Right.
We,
There's been some forced detox. So yes, Daniel.
yeah, some of the things that I've run into, several of the clients are not at all concerned about catching the virus or anything. So there's a lot of on my part and trying to help them think about other people that they might care about that they maybe could infect if they're not worried about it. So that's something I've been trying to work with people on. Not everybody though. And then the other thing that we talked a little bit about it today with the stimulus checks for those that are getting stimulus checks coming back in. It's going to be like a lot of cash all of a sudden. And so we've been trying to think, okay, what can we do to help, with something like that? Could be a triggering event maybe or something.
Right.
Right.
Maybe there's a way to anticipate some of that and create with folks like a wish list that goes beyond, drugs or alcohol. But, if you had an extra $300, $400, and they might be getting $1,200, but, if we can get what like great thing would you get for your apartment or your place? Would you invest in a new wardrobe, or that flat screen TV you want, or that new sofa, or to have them start dreaming of something that is bigger and worth saving that you can reinforce. Well, what else? And Chris, I think you might have had a comment. I don't know.
Oh, I'm just going to kind of reinforce exactly what you just said about the proactive planning with clients can probably go a long, long way of deterring that. Kind of having a thought of like, oh, this is what this money's for. This is what I'm going to use it for. And not just necessarily maybe responsible things like, oh, use it, like pay your rent, use it all to pay your rent. But like if they're excited to actually spend it on something like
Right.
a new TV, maybe not all of it, but you can get buy-in that way with them.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we have a number of homeless clients, and so encouraging them to use that money, even put in a savings account, so when they can find a place, have some money. 'Cause it's real hard to move in on one check,
Right.
don't find anywhere, even in Hayward County. So.
Right. Right.
So
And
I'm sorry. I'm curious for our folks that have SSI or SSDI. Are they actually getting paper checks, or will the money be going to their payees if they have payees already?
I'm not sure we know the answer to that. We just posted that folks who have not, I just posted an article to the coalition yesterday that
Mhm.
it's especially important for those folks who get the SSI
Mm-hmm.
to go up to the IRS and just go ahead and register again. Because if
Okay.
they've gotten a paper check, they might not be in it. And if they have dependents, that's not many of our folks that have dependents that they claim, they would get an extra 500. So
Mhm.
it's real important. The site's there. You can ask Emily about the article or just go up to the IRS site.
Okay.
But I don't know about the payees. So what we did with the coalition was to ask our team leads to outreach to professional payees, not to a mom or dad, but to those that are handling a ton of stuff,
Mhm.
and just ask them, what's, you know, are you seeing these drop into their accounts? Because I think they're dropping in to whatever account is set up through SSI.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It doesn't go to their EBT card?
No, not EBT. The SSI, the disability, the supplemental security income they get.
Okay.
Supposed to go to their payee. That's what payees have told me, but I don't know for a fact if that's actually what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so I would just, yeah. And then if you know, I want to encourage you, if you find a good resource or you're creating a good program you want to share, if you'll send it to either me or Chris or Steve, we are trying to compile, yeah, that's our last thing. So that's us. I'm pointing at my screen like y'all can see me. Over there. We're compiling, we're trying to do sort of daily blasts because so many people are doing so many things, and your poor team leads, or you if you're on the listserv, are getting, you know, 16 emails from us. So, but if you find a good source, resource, etc., and we're going to set up some stuff and send it back out to your team lead so that they can send it to you, what we've discussed here today.
Mhm.
So that you have those kinds of resources for
And
folks.
Stacy, you said daily, but I think meant weekly. A weekly. Kind
Well,
of
weekly we do the roundup, but we're still going to be sending stuff out like daily. So I think what we're going to try and do is like hold everything until 2, try and compile it, and then our top resources and stuff happening the next week will be out on Friday. We don't include all of the specialists or all the team folks in the listserv, so we depend on team leads to send some of that stuff out. So when it's specialist oriented, we're putting that in the header so they know just to forward that to you guys. I'm going to jump into can I get the other slide just to make sure I'm looking at the, thank you, y'all.
My pleasure.
We had in our concerns things about group and about access to certain substances, etc., moving the clients through stages of change. Someone said confronting denial. We don't typically do that, but trying to work with folks maybe who are having a real hard time with this, continued relapse or lapse, how to best support folks. And so one of the things that we thought is I wanted to give Jeff Neer, who comes out of our Wake Act team and was formerly peer support and now is their stellar co-occurring disorder person, a few minutes to just remind us about harm reduction and then some of the principles of that. And then have a discussion. And then I think we have enough time to also Chris is going to share some of what we've seen on the forum, which you can easily access easily. And then just talk a few minutes about Zoom, or not Zoom, but virtual meetings, that kind of thing. Does that sound okay? You guys have, if you move your mouse around on your screen, to the very right, you have something that says reactions, and you only got 2. They didn't give you a thumbs down. I don't know why. We might have earned that. So you have like a thumbs up, or you have like a clap, like I agree. And
This is the strengths-based thing, is what it is.
I know, right?
It's
Right.
like no negativity on the Zoom
right.
calls anymore.
It's got no sad face. In a month, there'll be one that's like, you know, the middle finger or something, right?
Or just a little,
Been enough of these darn meetings. So, all right. So can you give Steve, can you give Jeff the screen? And Jeff, do you want to do the slides?
You can do them. I
All
don't
right.
care.
Will you give me the screen then?
Yep. You can hear me fine?
Yes. Let me do.
Okay. First of all, I do want to put a little disclaimer out there that Stacy asked me to do this about 10 minutes ago.
I know, right?
So it's been a while since I've seen these slides. I don't know about the rest of you folks, but we're definitely, I mean, we've always been harm reduction focused, but we're finding ourselves in a situation where we're a lot more focused on harm reduction right now, even for some of our folks that are actively pursuing recovery, simply because of the situations that they're finding themselves in. I have a client that I work really closely with who has a lot of other health concerns, who wants to go into detox. And we're actually debating right now, is that actually going to be the safest and most productive thing for him to do right now? You know, we're here in Wake County. We're terrified that this, you know, virus is going to be popping up in institutions and stuff. And we're not sure at this point if he's actually better off and healthier staying in his home than he is going into a situation where he's trapped in a facility with a lot of other individuals. Several months ago, a year ago, I helped put together this series of slides for Stacy on harm reduction, on kind of international principles of harm reduction approaches. So the first one, humanism, pretty much, you know, it keeps the focus on the clients as individuals instead of on what we want to do with them necessarily. And the focus should be specifically on their behaviors that, you know, provide some benefit to them. I think a lot of folks don't realize that, you know, our clients don't just do the things they do with substances and related behaviors for no reason. They get a benefit from it, whatever that benefit might be. A lot of times we lose sight of that. We only see the negatives. So we have to keep that in mind. And, you know, the approach to that principle is we let go of those moral judgments. Sometimes that's really hard to do, but I think that's super important. You know, don't hold grudges. Our services should always be responsive to the individual's needs. And ultimately, we have to accept our folks' choices. They have a right to make what we might consider bad choices. And that's definitely difficult to do sometimes when you see someone doing something that you judge to be really destructive. The second principle would be pragmatism, moving on. So we have to keep in mind that none of us will ever achieve perfect health behaviors. I don't know about you, but I eat way too much. I don't get nearly enough exercise. I don't get nearly enough sleep. And I consider myself to you know, be someone who's pretty conscious of taking care of themselves. So none of us, you know, achieve perfection with this. And I think that we have to keep in mind that any increase in positive behaviors needs to be celebrated. Also keep in mind that people's health behaviors are really influenced by the social and community norms. You know, we talk about social distancing, and a lot of our people live in situations where social distancing is really difficult. And that's something that we're spending a lot of time working with folks on. You know, I have a lot of folks who live in either very tight apartment communities or congregate living situations where, you know, trying to explain and emphasize that they need to isolate doesn't match up with the realities of what their existence is. You know, so you can't just hole up in a room for 2 months. For a lot of our folks, it's just not possible. So we have to take it beyond that, I think, a lot of times. Approaches to this principle, and I think for a lot of folks, I found my recovery. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I did find my recovery through a 12-step program. And this was really difficult for me, but I think it's, you know, a key to harm reduction is abstinence does not need to be prioritized, and it should not be assumed to be the goal of the client. Our individuals have the right to make that choice. I'm working with several folks who have no intentions of stopping or eliminating their use. They just don't want to get arrested. They don't want to lose their housing, but they're going to continue to use. I can't just ignore those individuals or focus my treatment elsewhere. Harm reduction has to be, you know, it has to be on helping individuals have better outcomes in their life. And so that challenges us to be really creative. We were going to have to come up with a lot of different approaches, a lot of individualized approaches with people. So what I try to do is I try to focus that message on what is the particular harm that we're trying to address, not the substance use or the alcohol use or the prostitution or the, you know, other illegal behaviors, whatever those might be. It's about what are those outcomes that we're trying to avoid, and what are the particular harms to the clients that we're trying to eliminate. I think that we also have to keep in mind that sometimes we're going to run up against a lot of moral ambiguity in pragmatism. Stacy used to use an awesome example of, you know, trying to get our nurses to work with clients to teach them how to give themselves safe injections. And a lot of nursing staff really flipped out on that, really pushed back, really didn't like that. But that is harm reduction. You know, if we're keeping someone alive and keeping them from getting infections and stuff, that's harm reduction, something we need to be focused on. So individualism, principle 3, you know, it's keeping in mind that everybody has their own needs, everybody has their own strengths, and that there are broad spectrums of harm and there's broad spectrums of being receptive to what we're offering. There also needs to be a broad spectrum of intervention options. So just keep in mind that, you know, we have no universal application or protocol or message that we need to send clients. It needs to be individualized. So tailor-made messaging, tailor-made interventions for individuals are always going to be the best approach. The 4th principle, autonomy. I think that a lot of our folks are really disinclined to become involved with their co-occurring disorder provider sometimes because the approach they've always experienced in the past has been someone telling them what they have to do, telling them what they need to do, a more confrontational choice. You know, I've never found that to work. When I was in active addiction, if you told me what I had to do, I would tell you exactly what I was not going to do because I didn't have to do anything you said. So I think it's up to us to offer suggestions, offer education, offer choices, and then realize that the individuals we work with are going to make those choices, and they have to be responsible for those. So it has to be about a partnership, and it has to be driven by the individual you work with. Ideally, you want to develop a relationship where you have shared decision making, and reciprocal learning. You know, I have several folks that I've tried to move in certain directions over and over again, and constantly not been successful in that. And I had to learn that there were really valid reasons that the folks I worked with weren't going to follow those suggestions, weren't going to agree with them. And I'm wasting time and damaging our relationship if I keep revisiting the same thing over and over. It's nice to have it out there as an option, but sometimes I have to step back and realize that I'm not in charge of the vote on this one. The fifth principle, incrementalization. Change can take years. My personal story is that from the day I decided I had to find recovery or end my life, it took me 7 years of going to meetings almost every day before I actually was able to get some real recovery time under my belt and maintain it. 7 years. So, you know, I just think that we have to keep in mind that we may work with someone for 5, 6 years and think we're getting nowhere, and we'll actually be making progress. It's very minute changes are huge. So I think the key to this is that we have to celebrate any positive movement. Even if someone continues to use, even if someone continues to have negative outcomes, that when someone even verbalizes positive intent to make changes, we need to really pump them up about that. And we need to be there when things don't go well, you know, still providing affirmations of their willingness to at least try something different.
Jeff, can I jump in for 1 second? I just have
Yeah.
one comment on that. And I know, you know, I do a lot of the MI, and we talk a lot about stages of change readiness. And the thing that I try and remind people is folks can be using and in the action stage at the same
Absolutely.
time. And I think we often think if they're using anything, we have a tendency to have like go back to, you know, go to jail and go back to the first thing. And now you're in pre-contemplation because you're using. So folks can be in action and still be using one or lots of the substances or all of them and still be in action. All right, back to you.
Yeah, I just see the note here from Van that action is any change, right? Yeah, I believe so. I think that action can also be movement toward taking the action. Action sometimes can be someone developing the plan too. I know that's pre-contemplation, but I think that you know, I've seen big changes with one or two of the individuals I work with just recently, where they're definitely in that preparation. Preparation stage. They're definitely in that preparation stage, but they are taking the action to convince themselves. They're actually making those plans. They're getting ready for those changes, and it is a much more positive mindset. When would you consider an individual out of action? Repeated relapses action. Yeah, I agree with all of those. I think when someone returns to the mindset that I don't want to change. I know in 12-step programs, we have the saying that, you know, you remember when you say you are. I think someone is in action stage of change when they say they're trying to make a change. That's my personal belief. I don't know if everyone agrees with that. On this stage, I think it is important to realize that everybody hits plateaus and do have negative trajectories. You know, that can be disheartening at times, but I think we have to realize that that's just part of it. You know, it's like someone said, multiple returns to use, multiple relapses. I try not to use the term relapse. Multiple returns to use are actually an action stage. It's someone repeatedly trying to change their behavior. So principle number 6, accountability without termination. I don't imagine that we have a lot of problems with this across the folks that are here. I have seen it from the medical side of things with some folks. Patients are always responsible for their choices and their behaviors, and they shouldn't get fired, so to speak, for not achieving their goals or not following through on the things that we would like to see them do. And individuals have the right to make decisions that are harmful to themselves and that we disagree with. We don't have the right to stop providing the supports and the treatment options and choices simply because someone doesn't follow through with what we would like to see them do. So our approach should be helping folks to understand the impacts of their choices and behaviors. I do a lot of revisiting, outcomes, what led to you losing this job, what led to this breakup, what led to this arrest, and analyzing it without passing a judgment on it. Just saying, if you weren't intoxicated, would you have been at this convenience store at 2 o'clock in the morning, and would you have gotten robbed? If you weren't using, you probably would have been at home in bed asleep. So, thinking about that. Backwards movement is not penalized. And I believe that's the last one, isn't it?
I want to also put in there, because I've seen this with some teams that we've evaluated, where they'll say, oh no, we're cool with someone smoking pot, or we're cool with someone, drinking more than we think might be healthy. And then they withhold opportunities that ACT can provide.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't talk about jobs, because why get a job? You're just going to test positive, you're going to get kicked out, or a nicer apartment. Why would we try and help you get a nicer apartment? Because you're just going to spend your money on booze and weed. That sounds like an old song. And not pay your rent. So that also is considered like sort of firing away from what ACT can do. Maybe a little less so here during this COVID mess we're dealing with, but really looking at, what are the opportunities? Because those things, especially work, are so recovery oriented for folks. So that's the end of this. What I'm going to do, and Chris, if you want to get your screen up, I'd love to have discussion about what we just heard and then talk about yours, but now the screen's blank.
Someone's asking, Stacy, somebody's asking to return to principle 1 for a second.
Okay. All right. And what I was going to say, so let me share my screen again. What I was going to say was, I'm going to send this PowerPoint to you as a PowerPoint. And then if you want to, and I mean, all you, not just Jeff, he has it, but is from beginning. There we go. Here's one. In theory, where'd one go?
Maybe click.
All right. It's making me work for it. And then if you want to do a brief cross training with your staff, because I imagine lots of staff might be sort of frustrated about use of those kinds of things right now. It's just a 6-slide PowerPoint. You're welcome to use it. We've got we've cited the experts on the first one slide, so just mention that, draw their attention to that, and use away. So we'll send that in addition to some other resources. I'm writing some stuff down.
I'm curious, was there a specific question about the first slide?
Maybe someone unmute themselves and ask. I see chat.
You just wanted the screen? Someone just wanted the screen. That's fine.
All right. So you're going to get this again. We're going to send out, I'm going to send this to the listserv to send to you along with some other stuff. So we'll head it for your co-occurring disorder specialist. So Chris, if you want to get your screen up, but I'm wondering what you all are thinking about this presentation and about these thoughts. Where are you? Where's your team? What are you trying to do in this highly unusual atmosphere?
Well, I'll share that we're trying to adapt.
Stacy?
Yes?
Someone else started speaking. I'll wait.
Go ahead, Amber.
Okay, I just wanted to add a slightly different spin or just an additional spin on harm reduction during this time, during COVID, that I've been really trying to share with clients, that basically using substance use right now, a lot of people share paraphernalia. And that's something that we need to talk about. Normally encouraging someone to obtain paraphernalia isn't necessarily a great idea, but I think it's something that we need to talk. In addition, the CDC has found that substance users and smokers are more vulnerable. One of the physical consequences is because of the so that's something else I've been encouraging is hand washing, smoking. Put those out there, thoughts for harm during this time.
Right. All right. What else?
Matthew?
Well, yeah, we're trying to adapt with the new technology. We had our first substance abuse group last week. I won't say it was a train wreck, but it was challenging. And I think the best thing we did was, one person held the space, and then the other person kind of reached out and called and problem solved and tried to include other people. That was really helpful. So yeah, we're trying, but a lot of our clients are feeling the same kind of, disconnection that we all are, right now.
I think it's important to, in those meetings, even set the stage of, hey, we're all figuring this out, and the technology might not work right the first time, or this might not work the first time, but let's stick with it. I know these meetings seem like they're going much more smoothly than our very first one.
Well, that's why I said it's very important for all of us to just open up the discussion, even if they're not discussing it or wanting to discuss it or thinking. It's just important because they may have some questions, but they're afraid to ask. So I think it's important to open it up, just like if it was a suicidal thing, you wouldn't ignore it, you would talk about it. So this is very important and it affects all of us. So I think it's just important to talk about it, get it out. And sometimes that could help with their substance use or stop them from it, decided to use again.
Right.
Like the elephant in the room.
Right. I want to make sure I'm correct. This is talking about the COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we've been saying like over and over again, normalize, 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 validate, validate, validate. Because we all know in our own personal relationships, think of your sister, your mom, a friend, your Facebook feed, everybody is feeling boredom, lonely, anxious, depressed, frustration, all of these kinds of things. So validate what's going on, and certainly bringing it up. I think that's a really smart idea, is to say, we're talking to everybody about this. And so we're doing check-ins on this with everybody. In fact, I'm checking in with my family every day to see how they are doing. And making an assertive offer for daily check-ins if you have the wherewithal to do that, or whatever your frequency is. To say, I'm really trying to check in with everybody every day or every other day, or every morning or every afternoon. And I'd really like to do that with you. Are you up for a 5-minute check-in? And what works for you? And if it turns into a 15-minute, great.
Hey, we might be the only people that's actually talking to them at this point.
Yeah.
So we need
Absolutely.
to just be cognizant that word might be the only contact.
Mm-hmm.
And that's awfully lonely. I've got a few family members. I'm lonely. I can't imagine being by myself through this.
And we have some comments in the chat box about, how important it is to mention and talk to each of the clients about the pandemic. about what's going on, probably because a lot of the same reason we might be the only ones talking. And then it's also, Beth mentioned that it's also the individuals that seem to be at higher risk for tech that have the least technology.
Right.
It's challenging.
So there are not a ton, but there are several resources out there trying to get phones to people. So at least dumb phones, and hopefully we're trying to get smartphones. So if you have folks with no phones, typically your team leader is going to know that. We've been talking to team leads about that since week 1. So that's been 3 or 4 weeks. So if you still have people with no phones, and I understand we may give a phone to someone and they may sell it, you know, so really trying to talk to them about trying to keep that phone or getting a more disposable phone. If you know someone's going to do that, and then you're going to end up replacing it, then getting something that seems more like a burner phone, then listen to me, I'm like a drug dealer, a burner phone, because you know you're going to replace it. And being able to talk to them about, we'd love to get you a smartphone, but we don't want it to, you know, disappear or go out into the neighborhood. So right now, here's this one. You know, you can acknowledge without blaming the economic stuff. And maybe folks with their stimulus can look at, do they want to get a used smartphone? It doesn't have to be an iPhone. It could be an Android that still is smart. Then they could get on, you know, Facebook or other apps.
I wanted to comment about on all the check-ins too, is to, I'm sure, you know, we champion the call of individualizing those check-ins. You know, you know your clients, and you know which clients want supports around substance use and are willing to engage in that. But the clients who aren't and don't want to talk about it, or, you know, very pre-contemplative, like, find a way to get a daily check-in with them too, and keep those things going.
I just wanted to add something. This is Letha from Fayetteville. I'm actually on the call right now instead of the video. I've been doing a lot of like just encouragement with my clients. I think a lot of them have lost hope, and we as the people, if we don't have hope, we don't have anything. So just being very vulnerable with them, but also not disclosing too much stuff with them. And I've been, you know, trying to be positive about the leadership that we have in White House and everywhere. You know, the governor, everybody's making decisions for us. We just have to trust the people that we voted for that are in leadership. Just kind of taking it off of us. We take the responsibility off of us that we don't have any control of it, and we just have to have some type of faith, no matter what that looks like. I think it's been very helpful for my clients. I've had emotional breakthroughs with them, and I've been able to cry with them and laugh with them about the whole situation, and just talking to them about the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, there's past history of the Spanish flu, other types of pandemics that we've faced in the past. So I think normalizing that part too, that this is not the first time that this happens. It's the first time that we have seen it and our grandparents have seen it, but it's not necessarily new. So, and I think that I just want to share that. That's been very helpful with me with my sessions with my clients.
Right. I'm going to pull something up real quick.
And while you're doing that, Stacey, I'm going to jump in real quick. I'll make a comment that I've seen. I'm on a lot of different CBT listservs, and one of the things that's been commented is to find something that person does have control over, even though they can't control anything about COVID-19, to find something in their life that they can control, you know, what they're eating that day or something very small that they can control. And we also had a comment in the chat box about, you know, individuals going out, the clients not believing that we're in a pandemic and still hanging out in the streets. We actually have an excellent motivational interviewing webinar that we've sent out, and I believe we'll probably send again after this, that Stacey created, about using motivational interviewing to help clients that are having difficulties in those exact situations.
Right. So that's just what I wanted to share was, and we're not going to share the whole thing, but it is a webinar that oh God, this thing is so complicated. Technology driving me crazy. So we shared this yesterday, Tuesday? No, 2 days ago. Sorry. Someone told me that the weeks are that day, this day, yesterday, the next day, what day? So we shared this. It's 34 minutes. It really, I think, I took a lot of the ideas from people smarter than me. I think it's pretty smart. So we'll make sure that that this also gets to you guys, and we're hoping that some of the teams will also other people will see it. So that's what it's going to look like, and unfortunately you can't stop it. Like once it starts rolling, I just keep on rolling. There's no way to pause it. We think that's a dumb feature of webinar. We're trying to figure that out, but we didn't before this. So that's there. And I think there are, I also, before I just get off this horse here, I'm also going to share Shireen. I never say her last name right. I think it's Caracco. She has Pure Voice NC, and they are doing 1 million webinars, like all day, different meetings from guitar lessons to, rap groups to music groups to whatever, storytelling. So that sort of comes in that kind of idle hands, taking care of folks who do have technology. And that might also be a motivator to get a better phone or to get a cheap internet computer. There's a lot going on that you could key into if you had that source. So I'll send that link, and I'll also send Temple University that has a lot of that kind of online inclusion stuff, because you could use it. Just bring up something and share it with some people. And also they could use it when you're not around. And then the last thing, I swear to God, is a team said that they were buying out the Dollar Tree and Dollar General. So buying a lot of puzzles, coloring books, find a word, crossword puzzles, Sudokus, and delivering like care packages to their clients to help keep them busy and maybe take a break from TV. All right, that's all the news she wrote. How about you, Chris?
If I could comment on your motivational interviewing training, I do think it's real helpful, and it's real focused on how to talk with clients who maybe don't view the pandemic as that big of an issue or struggling with the social distancing. And I know some of you mentioned that specifically, so I just wanted to, that's really what that's about. I did see someone said, how were you able to obtain phones directly from Assurance Wireless? Does anyone who did that want to share real quick?
Well, if the individuals receive special assistance like food stamps, they automatically qualify for a free phone. If they lose it, it will be misplaced. But what we did is simply went to like Dollar General, and we bought these burner phones, and we put 30 days of services on it and set them up and delivered them to the individuals.
And I would comment, because there's a fear sometimes that, oh, they're going to sell that phone. I would say, maybe it's worth it to give them a phone, they sell it, and then say like, hey, here's another one. Like, we hope this one doesn't get lost. And maybe having that conversation with them, like, and building the goodwill and the we're on your side in this. Might take 2 or 3 phones to get them through it. I remember my team did that. We had a client who was paranoid, and he kept throwing his phone like in the middle of intersections because the mafia was tracking it, and we'd always like, oh, stop doing this with your phones.
Chris, I'll add in for those that are on the phone and can't see the chat box, kind of with what you were saying about individuals, the concern that people are going to just get rid of the phone. We have Catherine who added that one of her clients that chronically uses crack and has kept her phone and been in regular phone contact with the team. So you don't know if these things are going to happen if you don't try. So, I mean, we could easily say, oh, they're going to do this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to destroy the phone or get rid of it.
Right. So maybe not the iPhone 11, but maybe the LG 3 that you can get for $60 or something, or the others that may be helpful.
We also had a comment in the chat box about family members being, let's say, not so kind about individuals using alcohol at this time, and the concern that the individuals were going to go into withdrawal symptoms if the family members are withholding the alcohol for them.
Right.
I've also, heard that there's an increase with people out of jobs and everything, that there's an increase in the exchange of sex for substances too, is something that we all need to keep in mind. So safe practices around sex work and harm reduction around that would be important right now.
And the fact that for some folks who used to do that, they don't have the opportunities that they did. Because while it might be on the rise in some places, it's actually on the decrease because their customers are staying at home. And so they may not have that income. And that's actually why our ABC stores are still open. That was a public health decision to not close them and then throw however many people into detox who would need detox facilities and hospital facilities. So that actually was a discussion at a higher level, and pretty much all the states. I think Pennsylvania closed theirs and reopened it to keep those open and to keep the sale of alcohol okay, because they didn't want the detox. I really want us to be able to have the time. We are almost not, at the end of our official time, we're going to stay on. But Chris, I'd really love you to be able to share your screen on the forum, because we're actually dealing with some of these issues in our National ACT forum. And I'm going to put down on my list, my goodie list, the forum link, so you can get straight to it.
Okay, you guys are seeing this now, I guess.
They have not probably seen it.
So here is our forum, ACT Within the COVID-19 Pandemic. And we had the link there before, but Stacey will send it out. If you all hop onto this, I encourage you to make an account, but I think you can view it just as a guest, so you can just start clicking away. But there's a couple different categories. The first category is support for the ACT service recipients, so things that impact our clients. And there's a host of different topics you can see here, but down here we have co-occurring substance use. And if you click on this, you'll see a bunch of different topics that people have started commenting on. And what I would really love to see, because right now the strength of this forum is the sharing of ideas and the collaboration. And so I would really encourage you all, I've heard you all already share many great ideas and thoughts and things that you've been doing. I'd love to see you post them up here so other teams can be interacting with those supports. If you've made any cool documents tracking where your clients are or what's going on, of course, make sure there's no PHI in it. But this next section, support for ACT team staff self-care, talking about telehealth. So maybe there'll be some things in here with groups, how to do groups, how to run groups, maybe some ideas. And state and local resources, peer warm lines, support lines, words of encouragement down here at the bottom. But just explore it. And participate in it. I really would love to see people sharing their good ideas, especially in the co-occurring substance use, or asking good questions.
Right. Right. Good, thank you. So how about we also had talked some about like virtual meetings. So if we can have a couple of, we're at 11:02. If you got to go, we're sad. But if you can stay, we're happy. Anyone doing virtual meetings themselves or doing anything, Zoom, FaceTime, whatever? What are you doing? And how's it working? Or have you tried it? And what are your challenges?
Hey, Stacy, I actually have to leave the meeting to go to a virtual meeting. I just wanted to thank everybody for the work that they're doing before I get off. And I think this is a valuable tool. I hope we keep doing it.
And wait, you can't. And thumbs up. Thank you so much. I got to tell you, Jeff can just stop and drop on a dime. Thank you so much for helping us.
Keep up the good work, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, he's really helpful. If there's any advice you need, if you're a newbie on this thing, you can reach out to me or Steve or Chris, and we will forward that email to you, because he really takes seriously also trying to mentor newer folks in this position. So
we had heard from 2 people saying they had started doing groups already. Who else, or do you want to elaborate on those? How they've gone? Give us some tips.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, this is Angela. So, well, I actually, sorry, I don't really have any tips for, because I'm starting today, but we were going to do Zoom, but most of the clients aren't able to have Zoom right now. We're working with them to do that, but so they're going to call in, and I'm going to do a video so that they'll have the connection of seeing somebody from the team, and it's going to be an adventure to manage all the voices on the phone.
All right. A good thing that we've tried, I don't know how successful we've been, is do a practice Zoom. Like do a Zoom that doesn't have any clients and get 2 friends, 1 video and 1 calling. Make yourself the host, and then just practice for a half an hour, trying to do things like share your screen, do the mute all or not mute. I put on my happy little list, we have a meeting guidance that I got from some mints that was pretty good. So I'll send that out, just sort of be aware technology. What else?
We've been doing our treatment team morning meetings through Zoom to, practice social distancing.
Right. So if you're planning, if you already do a morning meeting, ask to take the controls and practice on that, just so you see all the different kinds of views. Is anyone else, how about by show of hands, like these little things? How many of you all are trying to do something that brings 2 or more clients together? Okay. Okay, so we've got a few, not a ton. So anyone who didn't do their little thumbs up, have a question, either about content or about process, for someone who's doing it.
guess one of my questions would be, you know, to do an IDDT meeting virtually, you know, we're, as a team, we share the Zoom meeting through group text and or email. Is that sharing, you know, I guess like if I did a group text with all of my IDDT group members, would that be any way infringing on privacy? The group text regarding, you know.
Right. What we've come to think we know, so check with your team lead, you may want to check up, is this is sort of like when you do a group. When you do a group, I know if I attend and Chris is attending, then I know that Chris is a client and Chris knows I'm a client because we're both your clients and we're attending group. I think to be safe, if you're going to use Zoom, etc., reaching out individually, noting in the chart that they gave you verbal permission to both attend and to let other clients know that they're a client because they're attending this. Sort of the same thing you do with any in-person meeting should be fine. And then you might just want a regular addition to your notes on anyone, even, you know, wherever you want to put it. Amber said, you know, gave permission to be a part of this group with other clients at the agency. And I think that's enough. You know, they've relaxed so many of the HIPAA kinds of things. They don't want us posting client lists on Facebook, but they've allowed so many more platforms than they typically would allow, realizing that communication is really important. Your team leaders should know more about it. They're hearing more about it with their MCOs. So that's probably
Right.
what I...
And I guess more specific, phone number.
Oh.
I don't, most of them be a text, and if I send out, like what's in with the Zoom or the, I guess that would be the only way to avoid, you know, sharing phone numbers, you know?
Right. Well,
or do I need to worry about that?
Well, no. I think that's a good idea, that to be aware of that. Maybe that's just a level of permission.
Right, and be clear, like Stacey said, be clear that said, this person agreed to participate in a group text with this group.
Right. There are...
Knowing that their number would be provided to the other people.
Right.
Due to the text.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The whole
that
phrase
would be very time consuming to send an individual.
Right. And then there are apps that I think we have to pay for, but there are apps that co-occurring substance use agencies have used, because CBT can be really helpful, little CBT reminders. And so you can schedule texts that go out to all your clients, and those have the numbers protected because you're, you know, you're sending a general, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. What great thing are you going to do for yourself before 1? You know, that kind of thing that helps motivate behaviors. But those are typically paid for and have like a privacy. One is, I think, called OneNote. My husband uses it for work to notify parents about school closing. So there are those, but I think they cost. But there, it might be not so much, and the agency's willing to pick up the tab on that.
Could be also something that staff do during their call-in, that they pass something along to the individual if that's not something they can access on their own.
Right.
Yeah, I see group members revealing their phone numbers to other group members as somewhat problematic in some of the groups we've had, just because then they can carry on calling, and they will, you know, so after the group.
Right, and then maybe teaching people like, hey, here's how you can block a phone number. Please don't block mine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Although my clients always were able to block our numbers when they wanted to. So it's not like they just magically won't know how to do it.
Right. And I also, with the groups that I helped with when I was in ACT, people shared numbers and it was a good thing. I mean, it's not always a bad thing. I mean, it was a good thing that they would call and check up on each other, you know, motivate each other to attend the group, help each other out with a grocery run or that kind of thing. So, you know, that peer support can be really helpful.
Right? Because
Yeah, and it has been very helpful in our group, and clients do that, and they develop very positive relationships. It's just giving permission to join the group, but if you kind of are giving permission for anyone in the group to call you,
Right. So maybe you also, when you're doing that, say, if this becomes a problem, you know, we can walk through again how you block numbers.
Well, I have a suggestion. This is Holly.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is to start off this whole program with group rules again, you know, in a different forum, and talking about boundaries, setting boundaries, which is part of, you know, the group anyway. So I think this could be a positive thing, just to reiterate that to them, that there are boundaries, there are things that you should not do, times that are appropriate and not appropriate, that kind of thing.
Right.
So.
Perfect. Good.
yeah, the don't share what we talk about with other people, like respect.
Right. Right.
One.
And don't have
Well,
multiple
Share
people in the
substances
room.
with each other. That's one of our.
we call our group rules comfort agreements. So.
Right.
Sort of along that note, I was anticipating that today's group, which will be mostly Collins, will require me placing more structure in the group than usual, because in order for so that it's not like a free-for-all with everybody talking over each other. So that's something I'm anticipating, is providing more structure than when we're sitting around, so that people aren't just, you know, yelling over each other.
Right. Now, I want to acknowledge we had a comment, and this was from Angela to everybody, about, are you finding any family members who are having problems getting services from folks of another race or another culture? Is there an uptick on racism and otherism that you're experiencing?
I've been hearing more racist things from clients and family members, and finding it challenging to, you know, maintain therapeutic relationship while, you know, addressing it, and just being uncertain of how much and in what way to address it.
Right. I think this is a time where everybody, just the platform is, everybody is suspicious of everybody else. And we've been told to. We've been told wear a mask, wear gloves, stay 6 feet away, at least. And so I think there's been, you know, an uptick in that. And isolation does not create exposure to new and good ideas at times, you know, and to the extent you want to try and explore it, good you, and to the extent that you don't feel like it's necessary or something you have the bandwidth for, good on you also.
Yeah, I know I've recently been kind of processing. One of my patients is still working, and there's a lot of racism she's facing, you know, at work from customers. And so try to explore that and kind of how does she cope with it and things like that. So it's been kind of an interesting challenge.
Right. Good for you to explore it and to acknowledge it. So
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anything else for anybody else? All right. I think Steve and Chris, I'm just going to check with you guys. I think signing off is probably
I
what
feel
we
good.
could. All right. So before, and you guys know this, I'm going to send just a bunch of stuff to you. So that Zoom, the link to Shireen's Pure Voices, the link to Temple, that PowerPoint, the link to the webinar, and the link to the forum. We got lots of links. So, all right, good. Thank you guys so much for the ones that are left, and everybody else. Get with your team leader, because that's who I'm going to send it with, too.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
See ya. Have a good day.
Bye.
Ever.